what role would you like philanthropy to play in driving innovation in education?
I see the philanthropy question as, yes, providing us with some money, valuable, but not almost our critical ingredient. I see philanthropy as providing us with opportunity and incentive to try different things and help us manage risk. Because in a way, if we do something in partnership with you that you have come to us and helped us package and develop, and it's an SVA piece of work, or perhaps a Ramsay piece of work, or some of the other foundations in the room, and that we are working with them, the price of failure is nowhere near as high as it is if, in fact, the department takes it on its own. And so ministers are answering questions in Parliament about why did that fail, and how much did you lose, and who has lost their job as a consequence of an initiative that did not deliver the return that we thought it would deliver. And I think that's very much baked into the culture now that exists around governments around Australia. Minimal risk, no bad headlines, no appetite for failure, but we know through business, we know through innovation that failure is at the cornerstone of learning, and that the path to the successful answer comes through the failed initiatives that do not work. So one thing is to provide that risk capital to work with us in a safe way to try new things that we could not do on our own.
Mark, very specifically on the new National Evidence Institute, we share a common vision where the evidence that's there, or the evidence that is being generated, will be used in classrooms to improve student learning. And we know from philanthropists that they care deeply about being able to contribute to that, to help take some of that risk and test things. So how can we ensure that it's got the right structure that's attractive to philanthropists, and it's got the right structure that matters to the states and territories and the Commonwealth Department, and importantly to the leaders and teachers? Yeah,
I think education has always had really a complex relationship with evidence. There's a lot of gut feel in education. I sometimes think that I'm really glad that medicine doesn't have a back to basics rhetoric, I graduated in 1967. I learned all I needed to learn in my medical degree at UNSW, and no, it's exactly the opposite. You really do hope that the medical practitioners you're dealing with are up to date with the research, are using the latest technology, and that they are thirsty for the latest insight to improve performance. We need to inject far more of that into education texts. There are risks about a National Evidence Institute, however. There are a number of national education institutes jointly owned by the federal and state governments. None of them are distinguished, and none of them do particularly distinguished work, or don't. They might be distinguished for a period of time, but they don't endure in being distinguished, I think. And there's always something about owned by 9 governments that can be the crushing dead hand of inertia over time. And so I think, and also the kinds of challenges, the answer will be in the questions. What are the questions that we really need to be asking and engaging in that will have the greatest impact on improving teaching and learning outcomes? So it's not a scattergun approach. We are identifying and trying to find the areas where the solutions would be most meaningful in our areas of greatest need. And part of the challenge as well, I think, around the table is the dreadful trade-offs and debates and bartering that goes on to try and find a national solution.
We know that skilled pathways and lifelong learning matters more and will continue to matter more for young people and for those who are experiencing vulnerability and disadvantage. What role do you see TAFEs playing in the future? Where's your vision?
We are really preparing young people to be lifelong learners and to be in a pathway of learning for different jobs using different technologies throughout their life. And I think at the moment we fear, and David Gonski recognised this really, that the students we are serving worse are those students who are not clearly bound for higher education. We're wrestling with all this now. We've just had a big report done on TAFE. It'll be considered by the government in coming months. We're appointing a new TAFE CEO, and I think what the government really needs to recognise, part of the argument is that, yes, there's as much an obligation to fund TAFE well as there is to fund the schooling system well. It's not as though TAFE is suddenly a cost. TAFE is an investment the same way that we view a schooling system as an investment. And yes, some parts will be contestable and some parts TAFE will operate with the private sector in providing training. But basically, TAFE is essential to ensure all young people get the start they need on a path of lifelong learning. One of the things I've always felt about SVA is that these are smart people who are coming to bear. This is a real intellectual horsepower and an ability to diagnose and assess a problem in a way that if we're dealing with it all day, every day, we may not be able to see it ourselves. So all of these things means the opportunities for partnership are rich and profound, I think.